Hi, very good evening once again. And I can see thin attendance now. Let's see whether this is more interactive. I'm sure a lot has been spoken in the whole day. Plenty of things have been covered. Even the panel that was there before, as well as some of the sessions, a lot of things were covered. Mr. Aloke also covered a lot of things for us to digest first before we even respond on the questions. So the session today, more from a technology-related finance and something relating to that. If I have to set the context for the discussion today, see, if you look at the way we are doing the technology is trying to help the business and all. The fundamentals of business has not changed. Neither the way we do the accounting, they have never changed. They are all the way it was. Or the way it is getting recorded remains the same. The way business is done remains the same. What happens, what has changed because of technology is the way we do those activities, tasks, right? So where we are coming from is that first we said technology, then we said automation, now we are calling it as digital experience or whatever we call it as, right? Now this has impacted a lot on the way business is conducted. The whole interaction today will be based on the topic of what is the impact, how it is going to have fallback, what is the fallback for this, what is the future steps we have to take, and what will be the future of the way technology is going to have an impact on the way we conduct our business and also the financial activities. So my first question is to Rahul, perhaps. So the way the digital has transformed, remember we spoke about task activities, process automation and all, right? So if you look at people, there was a discussion earlier also on relating to the upskilling of finance. But I will not say the finance resources need an upskilling, right? So that's a wrong word to use, perhaps that's my view. What do you think will be the role of financial accounting team or the executives with respect to the business process management?
Thanks. Am I audible? Hello? Yeah, thanks for the question. So I think, and I'll give you some reference from my existing company and my role even. So people do think about that digital skill going with the finance people or not. But in my recent experiences, I find that the finance people do carry a lot of digital skill already. And that is given. And having said that, I would say that we have taken a step ahead. COVID just accelerated the pace. We were going toward that side, or the business partnering in the organization, where finance was felt like taking a lot of reference from what Mr. Aloke was presenting, accelerator. So finance was always seen like that, because possibly we are seen like that kind of fuel that who can mix up with all kind of functions, be it sales, marketing, operations, or whoever. So we were being seen like a perfect accelerator, and that's where the perfect business understanding is required, and for which I need to free up my time and my resources time. And that's where the digital presence is also required. So we have tried to automate a lot of routine processes. Primarily, I would say all the transaction related thing which can be taken over by the systems or by the IT, we have done that. And now we are leveraging the presence of the humans, being as a human, into the strategy and the discussions with the people, and to predict what could be the future opportunity. So we say that my forecasting is something which we can predict slightly with bit accuracy, with a mix of some pinch of like gut feels. That is what we try to do. And in my company, which is Roche, and we are a medical device company, so here we call it like a physical approach, physical and digital. So that's a perfect blend on which we try to work upon. So even finance is working like that. So, and currently we are getting into a lot of other analysis where we can have a more predictive analysis. I saw the slide was talking about predictive analysis also, and I was wondering that after Alok, what should I say? Because everything was almost covered there. So, but that is something we are inching toward. We are trying to find more initiatives where we can be more accurate toward the future, bring all the things like from a inventory forecast to sales forecasting till finance forecasting, these three different kind of forecasting in one single tool, and remove the manual work out there and put the brain work out. So I would say that we are leveraging the digital in a way to automate the routine and transactions and using the human brain toward the predicting the future.
Okay. So you're talking about the analytical skill of people who are working where it should get more emphasized on, right? So what do you feel, sir, from a perspective that upskilling is one, analytical skills may be another, but is it that the technology is going to drive us or we are going to drive the technology? What I mean to say here is that are we going to do, okay, the technology says click here, so are we going to be a slave of the technology, or we are going to have an independent thought process to drive the way we are working?
So somebody was talking about fintech and other things. So I'll give you one, sorry to say that, the real life example. It is not finance, it is something to do with our hearts. So 6 years back when I used to park my car in Mumbai, my wife used to tell me left, right, and she was a parking expert for me. Now I have a camera and a sensor in my car. That doesn't mean I don't need a wife.
I'm sure she was doing more than just giving you parking advice.
Yeah. So don't be under this impression that fintech will eat away our job and robo will come and yes, process robots can make our life easier. See, IT is doing a fantastic job of unbundling the professions. And in my childhood, there was a story of sticks that if all the sticks are together, you cannot break them, but one by one you can break them. And this is what IT is doing. We have to not only upskill, we have to upscale our people. If finance will upscale, then they will really face this challenge. Upscaling is something like that, a long jumper or a high pole vault athlete. He can have a better techniques to cross the, let's say, pole vault. But if he increases the height and then break his own record, then it is upscaling. Finance people have to learn this part. Why they are not learning? Because over the year we are dealing with only past data. Things happens only then come to us. So we know only postmortem. But now we want them to not do a postmortem, but think for something future. And this mindset has to come. And as a finance leader, if we will not drive that thing, then 2025 will like that we are today. Don't be afraid of that. IT will do some wonders. They also have a lot of issues to really take care of. So, for me, it's a mindset which requires a change. If the mindset is changed, then upskilling, everything will happen.
I have I won't say a contrary view. I do agree that the mindset needs to change. And we've been talking about talent, reskilling, upskilling, whichever word we want to use, or changing the kind of people that join the finance organization. The two views I have is I absolutely wholeheartedly agree that as leaders, we need to help change the mindset. But what I've experienced personally, working with multiple organizations, is that mindset is not changing at the pace that we would like that mindset to change. So obviously, either we are not doing what we need to do as leaders, or the people are not seeing it. The other thing is, like you know, to your point, you enjoy driving with a camera and sensors. There are a lot of people who would still want a wife to give them directions, or whoever else the driving partner is, right? So the question is, we are trying, or we are expecting the same people to become something completely different, and we are not trying to look for what skill sets are needed for certain kind of roles. Every role does not require a finance person. We need to broaden the finance accounting team that we call, with different kind of people with that different kind of experience, because having that consolidated group will help change that mindset versus trying to make that same person, you were doing it this way, now I want you to start thinking, okay, the upstream process, downstream process, future process, understand data, analyze data. I've tried it. It doesn't work. So for some people, it does. So what I have done in a lot of areas that I've and organizations or teams that I've worked with is try to find people who are truly data analytics or people who understand making sense of information. They may not be able to understand the finance side of it, which the finance person, they love doing it, but they provide that information, but a lot of the other bit which the finance person is just not, innately or naturally great at. But when you have two people working, I've seen that change much, much better. So I would say, as a new age finance or finance team, we should truly look at diversity, not just gender diversity, but true diversity of having, different experiences, different qualifications, different age groups of doing certain things. We should not try and just reskill, upskill an existing finance organization, would be my view. Sorry.
Point is taken, but okay, let me put it the other way, okay? You are saying finance is expanding, finance roles are expanding, moving away from this, right? I always envy finance, to be frank with you. Whenever I go to any manufacturing company, most of the CIOs are finance professionals. No? So we are not able to span, I'm a technology guy, we are not able to span into finance, but finance easily spans into the other roles, which is good to see because...
But we can never develop. We can only tell you,
no,
this
we
might
don't expect them to do IT, execute IT, but we want them to manage IT. But the visualization of IT from a finance professional is undoubtedly great. Why? Because their thought is always outcome focused. Where IT is automation, execution focused.
Yes.
I have seen finance is always automated, outcome focused. Yes. But then the question is, there was a discussion in the earlier panel also about the role of finance. Now, when we say that the CFOs can have multiple hats, I've seen a lot of shared services, captives also, the heads of the captives are finance professionals. Now, what makes them so multi-focused, multi-skilled? What do you think they should do more so that, as you rightly said, finance professional can do a lot of initiatives. In fact, most of the initiatives in any organization is led by finance professionals, CFOs particularly.
I mean...
Yeah. So what do you think that, why is that number one? What else they should do? Like what I was talking about, the digital experience and all. What you think they should be doing more in the next 2 to 5 years?
Or in terms of changing the digital landscape?
In terms of, yeah, exactly. In terms of, not digital is going to help them as part of their multifunctional activities, right? I'm saying what should they do or what roles, what hats they can wear? Maybe, Sridhar can help me.
So thanks, Sriram. From my perspective, considering the future of the finance as CFOs, there are 4 major dimensions that every CFO should really focus. One is to be a good strategist. Strategist in terms of bridging the, helping the organization and also the CEOs or the promoters, the shareholders in terms of providing them a financial strategic plan and also aligning the growth, whether it is going to be an organic growth or inorganic growth. Second comes the catalyst. So the role of the catalyst morely will be in terms of how he is going to create the balances to have a proper organizational culture. So that is another unique role of a CFO when he is in the leadership role. Third would be a stewardship. Stewardship is more like how he is going to act as a protector and how he is going to secure the assets of the company or the shareholders' wealth or the shareholders' intrinsic value. And the fourth will be an operator, where how he is actually going to bring transformations in terms of talent management, in terms of optimizing the finance digitalization, in terms of bringing in various new financial applications for providing real-time data information for the management, also for the shareholders and for the investors, to understand where this organization is heading towards and what is going to be its growth prospects. So those are the 4 key dimensions in my view are going to be the future role of finance from my perspective.
Rahul, any thought process from you?
No, to a large extent, I do agree. And something is like we work upon VACC, so which is like visionary, architect, catalyst, and coach. So at time we have to interchangeably keep swapping our caps, not on a functional basis, but on the specific role which the business needs. Sometimes, say for a very critical project or a new business model or a business wing or division, possibly we are a partner where we can act as either as a visionary, or mostly I see my team, myself getting into as an architect. We design that, and then also people part, which is very, very crucial for now and for future, which Panna was also referring to it. So that's something where I find that we can hire the new talent, but what to do with the existing one? So that's where I need to play a role of a coach. And that with very clearly, so I can't define that into a KPI or JD, that what kind of role I need to play it. It changes every hour. People to people, it is customized. And at time, when this changes is coming in, I think that's where you are referring that finance is seen more broadly in all the areas. Because I think, and I personally felt, that we act as a perfect catalyst for change. And we motivate people, we show them the broader picture, what is the impact which is coming up. People generally say that, okay, we have to do this and something will happen. From my perspective, I try to visualize what can be the impact on my business, my people, my customer, and that is something I can put it into a very dramatic or pictorial form. So people can realize, visualize it, and then their buy-in comes to that. So I think between VACC, my way of looking is like, depending upon the situation, people, team, and reaction, I need to play an interchangeably role out there as a finance person.
I just want to add a little bit on this, my thought. Okay? See, you will never find a CEO who understand electrical engineering, civil engineering, mechanical engineering, data science, this. But from a finance person, everybody expects he should know accounts, finance, tax, business drive, this. So we are making a finance function more of a journalist or an all-rounder position. If this is a truth, then we have to invest a lot, because knowledge is a bucket which has a hole in the bottom. In 3 years' time, this bucket is empty. You cannot refill it after 3 years, CFO 1.1, CFO 1.2. Every year you have to refill it. Then we have to really create a structure or a system in which the finance has to upgrade every year. Our teams have to upgrade every year. And somebody was talking about, I think Mr. Bayani was saying, knowledge versus wisdom, which is must. See, tomato is a fruit, is a knowledge, but it cannot be put in fruit salad, is a wisdom. And this is what is expected from finance. Not only knowledge, but wisdom, which is application. It's a very big, I will say, big thing on our shoulders to shape up this function. And here, I agree with you, Panna.
I take your point from here. If we say that wisdom, my next question on this line, to maybe perhaps you can help me answer that, is that, of course, when we try to automate anything that we want as part of our organization, what is the wisdom we carry towards the risks of automation? Where I'm coming from is that, see, we always have SOPs. All our business activities are based on SOPs. And these SOPs are sacrosanct for our auditors. When they come and audit, they backtrace on that SOP to see whether we have complied or not, right? Now, when we do automation of our SOPs, we do either as a piecemeal automation or a 100% full-blown solution, or whatever we spoke about in the whole thing, right? So what level of importance is given to these risk factors, governance factors as part of this automation? How much of implication or how much of say finance has on that? Or perhaps I should say that if maybe whatever is done, but what is the role of finance in ensuring that future automations do not run into the risks of non-compliances? Did I convey it properly? Maybe I'm a little bit weak on finance. Perhaps you can help me.
I'll give a very, maybe I'm just being contrarian today. You're absolutely right. Every time, see, risk and compliance have a very important role in finance, undoubtedly, because whatever strategy roles, people role, every role that we can play, at the end of the day, the hardcore expectation from a finance or a CFO is that the, the completeness and the accuracy or the reliability of the numbers is absolute. If you're not exposing the organizations to any undue risk. But every time where the issue comes is absolutely risk and compliance are taken into consideration with any kind of automation change. You're moving into an application, which application, what it's doing. But I think what we don't really look at is we're trying to do a round hole in a square peg. Every time you do automation, it needs to come that I'm not just putting a robo on an existing process. It needs to do the same. We need to truly relook at what am I trying to achieve with this automation. And sometimes those risks truly don't even exist. And that is the reason you are actually automating, is because you want to de-risk certain things. It's not just either looking at, what is the risk of automation as well. So I would say there are two aspects. Is every automation comes with an inherent way of looking at, okay, now that the human being is not doing it, or the entire step is eliminated, they may be less prone to errors, but what is it that I'm exposing myself towards? So there'll always be those bits and pieces. To your point on the auditors, and which has been a very, a stickler point in every audit conversation that I've had in the past as well, is they do believe in digitization, but they want to do the audit the same way. They want to do the sampling the same way. They want to look at invoices the same way. They don't even want to look at a Ariba or a Coupa invoice. Oh no, I want a physical invoice. And now, thanks to COVID, I would say they have become a little more, okay, now that I can't really feel and touch the paper, I will look at a PDF copy.
What about your organization? Have you seen any major risk because something got automated recently? Or how do you go about in de-risking your automations?
Hello. No, in terms of automation, as she rightly says, that automation will never increase the risk, rather will help you to identify the risk during the automation process. But there is one thing, that what is the level of automation required and what is the areas where the automation required is the decision making, which is very important for the CFO or for any finance leader or even the IT team to decide first. So it's practically not possible for us to think of automizing everything. That doesn't work practically. So the decision making in terms of what is the extent of automation and what is the result that we are looking at from that automation process is the decision making, which is the crux of the entire automation process, that will enable you to de-risk certain things that you will envisage during the process. So that's my perspective on it.
But what is the involvement of finance role as part of those de-risking objectives? So maybe do you get involved in
every automation process will definitely require the involvement of a CFO or any finance leader, for the fact because any automation process is again linked into the compliance issues. May it be a IT related compliance issue, GSTR compliance issues, or corporate returns compliance issue, or even the secretarial compliance issue. So it is very important for any finance leader or CFO to get engaged in terms of understanding each and every step of the automation process and how the end result is actually complying with the overall financial results or the financial information and the data that we are actually submitting out of the office.
So,
The basic thing is risk and compliance. Yeah, sorry.
So I'll talk about the PPP project in which I am right now for the last 2 years engaged. 437 compliances every year, more than one per day. How to automate? We are still looking for different options, legacies, this, that. There are so many software which are available. The first thing in the compliance and controls, whether the escalation will be U plus or U minus. If my compliance has to happen on that day, the escalation has to in minus. Otherwise, it will fail. Second thing which I am finding is that my CEO always want to see the same type of report from the system also. The same look, color, same column. So I am forced to transfer manual inefficiency into the system. There are other topics to influence that report. So And this is where the finance person, I'll agree with you that we have to sometime put a foot down. No
No.
way.
Not put the foot down, just influence.
Okay, nice word. So this is what we have to really take care of. That when most of the time in all this automation, this happens, that all the inefficiencies are transferred into the system. And then we have only a typewriters with us.
I think risk and compliance should be a factor into decision making. But what happens is traditionally we are very conservative. As a finance organization, we're very conservative. And that's why finance has been very slow compared to some of the other functions in truly using machine learning, AI. We can't even think, oh my God, who's making decision? What if there's a journal entry? What if something goes wrong? Like, we are very scared people. So what happens is risk and compliance, even though should not be at the center, takes the center seat. So I think as CFOs, one of the most important thing that I would say, in addition to being in strategy and automation, is how do you truly communicate that what you're trying to de-risk through automation is in favor of helping with the risk and compliance. And there may be a short-term issue of not being reporting properly or whatever we do, and that's tactics and operationals and everything that will happen. But I think the ability to communicate the risk that we have inherently versus the risk and the fear that we have as a function, it should just be a factor. It should not drive decisions on transformation, because you'll never be able to transform.
I take a cue from what you said, right? I want the same reports. Now, what KPIs we used to have 10 years back are not the KPIs today. Maybe 5 years down the line, our KPIs may change, right? The ROI, every time we try to go and sell to our clients, and whenever we go to CFO for the discussion on commercial values, the first thing comes on the table is, what is my ROI? Now, ROI, how it is defined is value of the order divided by transactions. This is my per transaction cost. This is not my ROI that I'm looking for. This is what typically we face. But when we look at the way what used to be defined as ROI and the way in the future it is going to be, because of all these technology advancements, experience, a lot of people playing a role in the value proposition of automation, right? Will the ROI parameters change? New matrices will come. What will be the new matrices that we should count for, so that we really get the ROI, which is not just related to the cost, but also to the benefits by individual participants as part of those automation?
See, the KPIs which we are talking about.
Because this will help me answer my clients later.
Yeah. So you can answer, let's say, the KPIs. It can be an output-oriented KPIs or it can be input-oriented KPIs. So whenever I'll talk about output, my partner talks about input. So I said that ROI is like this. He says, what's the output per square feet area in the factory? I said, what do you mean by output per square feet area? What this KPI will tell? No, you're not utilizing the space correctly. I want that space to the factory should be utilized in such a way that I have a maximum output from the factory. I found out he is more innovative than me, talking about such KPIs of input related also. One day he's asked me, what's my average collection upon distance traveled by the collection people? So, KPIs will change. We have to only devise a system which should give us a flexibility of changing the things. If we devise only fixed KPIs, like I'll say SAP, for years we are working directly on the main server. We never use that there should be some front-end process who can talk to the SAP maybe after 4 hours, 6 hours, exchange the data, and then we can work upon there. Because as a CFO, I always thought, अरे 5 crore खर्च कर रहे थे 1 crore क्यों खर्च करवा रहे हो ऊपर? But later on I realized I have not saved money. I have, in fact, made the proposal more costlier. So the finance people have to understand only one thing. Theory of constraint. What constraint we can have and how to remove them. And it's to be every time it's to be done. And finance people have that knowledge that because we are used to work extra hours, only last minute working. So we can really bring that aspect on table and we can work as a partner. In partnership, earlier I used to do a tug of war. Sometime you win, sometime I win. But then one day he told me, let us do push and pull partnership. So I thought, what's push and pull? And I got an answer, which will give people will love. So it's like a Samudra Manthan. Two opposite parties doing push and pull. Initially, the poison will come out, which I call as a stabilization period. If you pass through that misery, we'll definitely get the benefits. What we are missing is that we are not finding that Shiva who will help us during the stabilization period.
Rahul, do you think, I think it's fine, but do you think what will be a kind of new matrices that we should think about as part of the next 5 years perhaps? Which should be the new KPIs for us perhaps?
Actually, that's a very difficult way to say what will be in next 5 years, because I think every year when we sit with our business people, including my CEO, we come out with 4 or 5 innovative KPIs that we can track it for the next year. Say, for example, I come from a medical device, so we put the patients first. So patients, then doctors, and then we put entire thing. The good part is that after spending a couple of days understanding the healthcare system and then devising a couple of KPIs from finance side, we are happy that we can track it also, because end of our day, a finance guy will not propose something which he can't track or which he can't measure. Because I have learned it that if you measure, then only you can produce or create an impact. So that's the underline. So we do that, and then suddenly some innovative thoughts comes up. Possibly we need some time to understand it, that what is the therapy time and how can we track it. So say, for example, when he was saying distance travel to collect the money, it's something like how much time we spend to provide the therapy to the patient. So that is something is very, very innovative. Possibly I need to spend some time to understand with HCPs or the doctors to understand what is the value add they bring in other than prescribing a prescription, and whether they are really giving a therapy. So those kind of questions comes in. But when you get deeper into it, I mean to say, then possibly first topic comes to me is that are we first tracking the number of prescriptions per doctor? Answer is no. Then how come I go to the final impact? So with one innovative question or thought, possibly there are 10 KPIs which pops up to the mind, and then we start working on it. But I think that will be continuously changing, because COVID had taught us one thing, that SOPs do not work at times. You have to think beyond and at times jump into the water without knowing how to swim. So that's something we are trying to do it. Healthcare is going for a toss. We try to do something, then our Prime Minister comes out with some new thought process, new price mechanism which do not fit in. So I think the world has become extra dynamic, and the word which says that change is the only constant, I think it's for hours. Next day again it will be changing something. So KPIs can't be constant, I mean to say. So every year definitely we are putting new KPIs in place. Some post-mortem KPIs are always there, like Ajay was just saying, we being finance people, so those are static, but those are now coming for me into an annexure if someone wants to refer it. But otherwise the new one is coming on the front slide, and then the narratives have been told. A lot of storytelling is there, and then we are putting all those KPI.
So perhaps the last discussion point, but I'll go through all of you one by one. As you rightly said, yeah, there are a lot of KPIs, have been there, will be there. There will be monitoring ones. There could be something very, very different which cannot be monitored, but really brings in a lot of value. What happens is that if we want to know, if we have to do something, we should know where we are today, so that we know where we want to go and what needs to be done to go there, right? Which means we need data, we need information. So are we really using the power of data that we have as part of our applications? Are we really doing analytical work on that to see where we are today, where we want to go, or where we want to, how can we change the way things are going so that we can bring in the efficiency, optimization, and other things? Are we really harnessing the data that is available with us as part of our applications?
So in terms of the data analysis and data analytics, unlike the earlier periods where we always review the data or present data on a periodical basis, today the demand is on a real-time basis. Exactly. Right. So which means that any finance guy or any CFO, or even for the sake of that, even a business leader per se, they should be having a data which should be very dynamic in terms of knowing what is happening as on the day we speak today. So if we have to have such a robust information, you need to actually have your data information and also the data outputs, like using certain tools like BI tools integrated with your SAP and other stuff, where you will be able to get a ready information. If somebody wants to see what is my inventory days as on today, or what is my collection days as on today, outstanding days as on today, it is only possible only if you have the highest level of automation linked with your existing ERP or SAP with a BI tool, is when you will be able to have real-time data to present or explain to the management. But from the perspective of how important is the data today in today's date, it's actually increasingly important, and it will keep increasing. The demand for having a real-time data for the future forecast or for the future thought process is going to be highly demanding. And that's the very reason where, in couple of the presentations earlier also, we have seen why it is so important for all the companies to embed the machine learning and the artificial intelligence into your SAP system and SAP process, because unless that is not there, the real-time information for you to analyze and present would become very challenging.
Do you think today's applications are able to give you that data which is required for a real-time
to most of the extent, yes, definitely, because of the systems. Like today, if somebody is having a SAP HANA or SAP ECC 6 version, and if it is integrated with a nice BI tool, you will be in a position to extract the data and information which is needed in terms of your decision making for your business and for your further future perspective. But by saying it, I won't say that that's the end of the road, because data analysis and data information is very dynamic, and it keeps changing with the changing demands and the changing expectations from various stakeholders. So we need to keep updating it.
What is your view on the data harnessing?
I feel we are not even halfway there in terms of truly appreciating data that exists across the organization. I agree that when it comes to financial data, the new applications, whether it's SAP Cloud, Oracle, and all the related applications provide data. They don't provide data intelligence. I mean, forget data analytics on that intelligence. So for me, data is one of the most critical things that will help us not only understand what is happening today, but use what is happening today to predict, to see how I should be doing things tomorrow. So automation or digital experience or understanding how customers are going to behave is going to be based on the data. And we sometimes, and I could be wrong, and maybe other organizations are already doing it, but a lot of the finance focus still is very much limited to financial information, and if financial information connects with some of the other related bits. But it does not truly take into account all the related business information that stays in other bits and pieces. In my current role as well, one of the most critical things that we're trying to gather is data which I can use to make decisions, not just information. As he says, knowledge and wisdom. Data is of no use unless you can make and bring intelligence out of it. We have a lot of information available, but we don't have true data. And that's where the focus is how do you change information to data.
From my perspective, I would say, I do agree with what Sridhar and Panna had said. So data is very powerful, but every powerful thing need to be used judiciously. So like he was just stating, a lot of data, that doesn't mean information. So I think that is there, but also at the same time, data do not guarantee me my future, because data is basically analysis from the past, what we have seen, we have recorded properly, it is everything is proper, then you analyze it, you get some trends or analytics, or you can say predictive analysis. And I think the skill lies there is where you can connect the various dots. You can have financial data, you can have market data, you have competitive data, you have multiple data points. And if you connect to that, you will have a more or less a very clear framework for future. But basis that, can we go and achieve the future? Answer is no. Can anybody tell us that what their kids will be doing in the future once they are going into graduation? I don't know. I really don't know which kind of domain will be existing at that point of time. When I started, it was arts, science, and commerce. Now people don't even talk about it. Means I was just talking to my son. I said, what is your chapter? A couple of years back. History, geography. He said, Dad, it's civics. I said, social science. I didn't had it. I had splits of it. Now he says science, which captures physics, chemistry, and biology. I had different chapters. Means just giving a thought process. In future, what it will be, I really don't know. So that way, from this past trend, I will have a framework. But that's where comes our experience of 20 years and for 20 years, 30 years, and that's where our gut feel and risk-taking appetite. I think data also helps us to support taking the risk-taking appetite. Am I going blank? Is it blindfolded risk-taking, or there is something at the backdrop which gives me confidence, which can be data converted into information, which I use it, and then I go out into market and venture that out. So I take data in that way.
So I'll say finance. I'll say we are nowhere as far as the data usage is concerned. Simple thing, ERP. Is anybody here sitting here can tell me that they are using time and resource management of ERP or only cost management? So we are not using that tool also. We are scared because it will. We have in all the organization various tools who gives the various data. Most of the time we are reconciling the data. Power, use of power is a very powerful word, boss. I think we are nowhere. And this is my request to whosoever sitting here and all the youngsters. Please start accepting, first of all, we are not using. If we will not accept, will not change. Please accept we are not using the power of data at all. Has anybody done an analysis why when customer pay on time, when customer does not pay on time? We only do bucketing of age. What about age reason bucketing and understanding? And then creating a model, if you take this 10 steps, 90% time you will get the payment on time. We are not doing at all. This is my takeaway.
Thank you.
Anything more?
Thanks a
Last
lot.
comment?
Thanks for all your inputs. I think it was great interacting with you all. Thank you, team, for patiently listening to us as well.
Thank you.